So now we're going to talk to Tom. And Tom began his awakening journey in 2012, where he would soon experience several paranormal occurrences that eventually led to some unexplained sightings. By 2019, he built his website to not only give other newly awakened souls something to identify with, but to also share the information he discovered through the work of many healers, channelers, spiritualists, scientists, ufologists, whistleblowers, and truth seekers. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you both for having me on your show.
Wonderful. Now, you should be able to screen share when you're ready. And
Okay. I'll just briefly mention, that I never had any religious instruction as a kid. I never had any experiences. So what happened to me towards the end of 2011, 2012 was, it was, a little shocking to say the least. So, with that, I'll just explain that with the paranormal experiences I had and the coincidences, it definitely made me want to research more about what was happening. And I had started writing a book, which, that's time consuming. And I have like a good chunk of it written, but I got to the point where I realized I could probably reach people a lot faster if I built a website. So in early 2019, that's when I started building the site. So I will now share screen. Let's see. Whoops. Make sure this is. Go back. Here we go. Hopefully this comes up.
We can see it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so
Beautiful.
Originally, it just said with Inside Out, an awakening call for change. And yet I felt it necessary to write in this bottom portion here, which says the site was launched in July of 2019 before the pandemic, lockdowns, the 2020 US election, and the recent events of 2021. More than ever, the information found within the expanding resource pages could help those looking for answers during these challenging times. Please pass this site along to someone you know who may need it. Thank you. And there's a reason why I put this in here, which I will get to. But so I wanted to keep, the site, simple yet visually appealing. And the bottom line is I had to explain my awakening to an extent, what I learned from other people, and also give some resources. So let me go into the resource pages right now. And there you have, I put in the little caution there. This information may cause excessive thinking, feeling, mental exhaustion, self-reflection, and awareness. These resources share a desire to know who we are, why we're here, what's really going on, and how to make the world a better place, which warrants their inclusion. Any religious or political convictions are their own. And there's a lot of information in here that, the average person like myself, 9-10 years ago, might, find hard to grasp, contemplate, and that's why I put this in here. But I added health first because given the state of the world, it became obvious, an obvious choice, because as a collective, I wouldn't say the human race is very healthy right now. But as we go in there, you have a couple meditating on the beach and a lot of different people who, offer different healing modalities. And there's different speakers who, have other people's best interests at heart, physically, mentally, emotionally. So there's a lot of good information in here. You talk about frequencies, cognitive behavioral therapy, empathy and narcissism, which, they're topics I think that everybody should try to understand more about how we can be as humans. I have Karen in there, of course, with her website. And, I won't read off the whole list, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. And it took, a long time to just kind of just jot down names for all these resources and put it all together. But this is my health section. So I highly
Wonderful.
advise people to go in there and take a look, and then
Mhm.
back out of there. And then I have my science section. And aside from the fact that it seems we are currently living in a science fiction, science fact world these days,
Mhm.
I wanted to point out the growing spiritual factor of science that is upon us. So let me click in here. This Carl Sagan quote: "Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it's a profound source of spirituality." And you have these three gentlemen who have given many interesting lectures on how powerful our minds really are. Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, and Bruce Lipton, who I actually saw give a lecture, I think it was 2013, on epigenetics, and it was fascinating. And then also to the other side there, I have, sites on metaphysics, because they discuss our world beyond the physical and how our thoughts can affect and shape our reality. And there's one quote I wrote down from a page in there, which I thought was kind of fitting. It just said, "Spiritual awakening and spiritual awareness are not so much about discovering something that did not exist before. Rather, it is discovering, or perhaps more precisely, rediscovering something that has always been, even though it may have been hidden away for a time." And that's kind of like the conclusion that I eventually came to with my awakening was, like, how long had this been going on, you know? But so as I back out of here, I will now go to the channeling page. And channeling messages are something I first started with Barbara Marciniak's book, Bringers of the Dawn, which I mentioned in my story, Rise and Shine. And, sorry, wrong page, channeling. And I chose Daryl Anka, Lee Carroll, and Esther Hicks because they are probably some of the most well-known channelers who've been doing it for over 30 years and in front of large audiences. And I also mentioned a few of the more famous channeled writings, including, Barbara's book, which has a link here to the audio book of Bringers of the Dawn, and the Seth material by Jane Roberts, and A Course in Miracles by Helen Schumann,
Mhm.
along with some other websites, and of course a link to Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment. So yeah, there's, again, I think all of these subjects within my resource pages, they're all interlinked,
Mhm.
and all these topics just were one kind of slowly led to another, and that's why I included them all. And then my UFOs page, here's another topic that won't be going away anytime soon. And while this section is one that I would also like to expand on, I've included some of the most well-known ufologists with years of research and material between them. And of course, there's some websites and links with information. But yeah, who was it? Stephen Greer, I also saw at 2016 at the New Living Expo. And that was, fascinating. And I've listened to many of their, you can go to YouTube and look these guys up, and they just, just fascinating stuff that, I never really contemplated before until I started having my experiences, and then slowly but surely it all kind of started making sense, that we're not alone. And I think we're just being contacted, but slowly,